Welcome back to the Louis Bellina Show here on the Zone, 1150 AM and 93.7 FM. Caleb Rapley here in the lunch hour inside the Charles Schwab studio, guest hosting for Louis. Every Friday in June, I've been here from 11 to 1, part of the summer edition of the Louis Bellina Show. So this is my final hour with y'all this summer. I've really enjoyed my time here. It's been a great opportunity to host this show. We're going to talk some motorsport, something that I don't think gets talked about enough in the world of sports today. I am a huge NASCAR fan. I grew up watching it almost every week. You know, kind of went out of my life there for a few years, but I've started to rediscover it. It went on a little bit of a downturn popularity-wise there for a few years, but I think it's starting to pick back up. So I want to talk some stock car racing here. First of all, I think one of the reasons why it has been not so popular has been just the accessibility of it. So I think for the past few years now, NASCAR has done the way they cover their races is they do it through multiple different streaming services. So I think the beginning of the season is on Fox. So usually I believe it's FS1. And then they go to Prime Video for like 9 races, I think it is. And then for the rest of the season, if I'm understanding this correctly, the rest of the season is on TNT and HBO Max. So first of all, I think they need to cut down on having so many different ways to watch it. To watch a full season of NASCAR, you have to have 3 different streaming services minimum. So that does make it a little bit difficult to access, in my opinion. That's something they could change. This year has been a little bit of an anomaly. So for the last 5 or 6 seasons, I think it is, the sport has been dominated by the 2 biggest teams, Hendrick Motorsports running Chevrolets and Team Penske running Fords. So the last 6 seasons, the entire 2020s decade, a driver from one of those 2 teams has won the championship. Last year it was Kyle Larson for Hendrick, driving the number 5 car. That was his second. That's his second championship. His first one was back in 2021, and then the 3 before 2022, 2023, and 2024 were all Team Penske. Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, and then Joey Logano again. So the Chevys and the Fords have kind of dominated the sport. Really, since Dodge left, it's been mostly Chevys and Fords. The Toyotas have won a few. 2 of those were Kyle Busch. One of those, Martin Truex Jr. back in 2017. But this year has been the year of Toyota. Tyler Reddick, I think he won the first 3 races in a row, which is unheard of. I think that was the first time in NASCAR history that a season started with the same driver winning 3 in a row. Winning the Daytona 500 back in February, and then winning at Atlanta and the road course at Circuit of the Americas here in Texas. So he is the current points leader for the season. He's picked up 2 more wins since his hot start. In March, he won at Darlington, and then in April, he won at Kansas. So it has been a while since he's won a race, but since he stopped, he kind of cooled off a little bit. Again, still at the top of the standings, so not cooling off that much. Another Toyota driver and Tyler Reddick's team owner, Denny Hamlin, which, for those of y'all who don't know the drama behind Denny Hamlin as a team owner, let me fill you in real quick. I think it was 2020 or 2019. It's been a while now. Denny Hamlin, who has been the driver for the number 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing, Toyota, he partnered with Michael Jordan to start a new team, 2311, which would be Toyota as well. So they now are a 3-car team, 3 full-time cars. The number 23 car with Bubba Wallace, the 45 with Tyler Reddick, and the 35 with Riley Herbst. They have run the number 67 on a part-time basis with Corey Heim, and that paid off big on Sunday. Corey Heim with his first career NASCAR victory at Naval Base Coronado in San Diego, which is, again, one of the coolest places to have a NASCAR race. That was a lot of fun to watch. A lot of drama there at Naval Base Coronado, another road course. So anytime you see NASCAR's turning right, there's going to be some drama. There were a lot of wrecks. The favorite to win the road courses for the last, I think, 3 years now, pretty much every road course, Shane Van Gisbergen is going to be the favorite. He is from New Zealand, recently got into NASCAR, and was pretty much just a road course only ringer type driver, which has been fairly common throughout the years, but I think this is the first time that a team has committed to him as a full-time driver over the last few years, and he's made a lot of progress racing at ovals, which has been really interesting to see somebody who's had a lot of success in other forms of motorsport really start to figure out NASCAR. If he continues to figure out ovals, he's going to be a real problem for everybody else, as he's always going to be one of the favorites at the road courses, which he's only won one this year. And like I mentioned, Tyler Reddick won the first road course race at Circuit of the Americas on March 1st. And then the next road course race was Watkins Glen International on May 10th, which SVG won that one in his number 97 Chevy for Trackhouse Racing. But the one other road course since then at Naval Base Coronado, like I mentioned, Corey Heim got the win in that one after, I think it was the beginning of stage 2 that Van Gisbergen went out in a huge wreck that took out a few of the leaders and a few of the favorites, including Van Gisbergen's teammate Connor Zilisch, who was kind of a rookie sensation coming into this season after, I think it was runner-up in the Xfinity Series last year, and he's one of the youngest drivers. I think he is the youngest full-time driver in the sport this year. He's been a little disappointing, but he's always great at road courses. But him and SVG both got taken out in stage 2 of the Naval Base Coronado race on Sunday. Corey Heim ended up getting the win in that one. Another young driver who's had a lot of success this year, including his first time win, or his first ever win in NASCAR at Talladega back in April. My personal favorite driver, Carson Hocevar, driving the number 77 for Spire Motorsports. He has been an up-and-coming driver for the last couple years. I think last year was his first full-time season. It was pretty solid, but this year he's really started to show what he can do. He is 9th in the standings right now. Driving for Spire, which was kind of one of those teams that's just usually in the middle of the pack, but they have shown a lot this year. 2 Spire cars in the top 10 of the standings right now, with the number 7 car of Daniel Suarez in 8th place, 2 points ahead of his teammate Hocevar. And then the third Spire car is down in 21st, Michael McDowell, pretty far back there. And one more driver who has been surprising this year is Ty Gibbs, who drives for Joe Gibbs Racing. So anytime you have a driver who's the grandson of the team owner, you know he's going to get a little more leeway to figure out NASCAR. It's kind of a similar thing that we saw with Austin Dillon, and he's still around at Richard Childress Racing, driving the number 3 car, and he'll probably be there as long as he wants to be there. He's a solid driver, but he's never a favorite at any of the tracks. He hasn't won any races this season, but a lot of times in pretty much every motorsport, your last name can get you a long way. But Ty Gibbs has finally started to show that he actually does belong here, and it's not just his last name that keeps him in the sport. Because people were starting to question that a little bit. He's definitely has been the weakest of the 4 drivers for Joe Gibbs Racing. Obviously, Denny Hamlin in the number 11 car, a veteran. I think he's the oldest driver that's still at the top of the sport at the moment. He's in 2nd place in the point standings. He's one of those drivers that has always seemed to be the bridesmaid and not the bride. Has never won a championship, but he's always been right there in contention for as long as I've followed NASCAR. And then the other drivers for Joe Gibbs, Chase Briscoe and Christopher Bell, have both won races in their career. They've both shown a lot of talent. So Gibbs has always been kind of lacking in that department in the years that he's been at the top level. But this year, he has really broken out, won his first race of his career also in April at Bristol, the Food City 500. So April was just a good month for drivers who'd never won a race before. Gibbs and Hocevar getting a win in that month. And Gibbs is now 5th in the standings. So kind of keeping with that theme of Toyota domination this year. 5th in the standings. So that's second on his team as Denny Hamlin's in second place, Ty Gibbs in 5th. And then the other two Joe Gibbs cars back in 10th and 12th, respectively, Chase Briscoe and Christopher Bell. So it's been a great year for drivers who haven't... It's been a great year for breakout drivers, let's just say that. Ty Gibbs and Carson Hocevar specifically are two guys who, going into the season, you knew that they were talented young drivers, but you didn't know if they would ever put it together. Gibbs, they're both 23 years old, so extremely young for the top level of NASCAR to be only 23. Very impressive. A lot of fun to watch. A lot of fun to watch new drivers have success. But, as a Chevy guy personally, it's not a lot of fun to watch Toyota win 11 of the 16 races so far. So we'll see where that goes. Tyler Reddick still holding on to that first place spot in the standings. But Hamlin is catching him. He's only 8 points back. And it's always really funny when you have a driver who's also an owner. And back in the early days of NASCAR, that was extremely common to have a driver just own his team. But Denny Hamlin is a driver and owns the team that he doesn't drive for. So it's always been a really weird dynamic for me. I've never understood why he didn't just move over to that team, especially here in the later part of his career. And I think I know he hasn't officially announced this, but he's talked a lot about possibly retiring after this year or next year. It's just weird to me that he wouldn't want to drive one season for the team that he owns. And that 2311 team was really involved in the lawsuit that has been underway for, I think it was a couple years that took. That settlement did finally happen before this season. So basically, they were disputing what NASCAR was doing with their charter system. NASCAR basically gave all the teams an ultimatum to agree to this new charter system, which was very restrictive. And 2311 decided to fight it, along with another team, Front Row Motorsports, back in 2024. They both lost their charters. NASCAR revoked them. But similar with how the injunctions work for college basketball that we've seen over the last year or so, they were granted an injunction to be able to race in 2024, 2025 as chartered entries. And the trial, it was interesting. It only went 9 days into it, and then NASCAR decided to settle and issue permanent charters for teams, which gives them a lot more freedom and stability. And I think it's going to be really good for the sport. It's just wild to me that it took Michael Jordan getting involved in NASCAR to really get NASCAR to understand that the teams are serious and want these things. But it's been settled now, and I think that this is a really good step for the sport as a whole. That as we've seen over the last couple years, viewership has started to increase a little bit. I think it's really starting to get back into the spotlight, and that's really great. As a motorsport fan myself, I love watching NASCAR. I love that people are starting to get more involved in it again. And one thing that I've never really understood, I've understood it a little bit, but there's always been a really big division between NASCAR fans and F1 fans, which, it's kind of the similar thing as to just Europeans and Americans in general. As both sides kind of, once you are a fan of one of those two things, a lot of times, like on social media, NASCAR fans hate on F1 and F1 fans hate on NASCAR. Personally, I'm a fan of both. I really think that that we really need to people need to appreciate both of them for what they are. They're very different sports. I understand that sometimes watching cars just go in circles for 3 hours can be boring if you're not into that. I get it. Personally, I'm really into it because there's a lot of drama in NASCAR that you don't see in F1. There's way more wrecks. There's way more close races. And F1 is more about going as fast as possible and trying to beat people by as much as possible, which can make it a little bit boring for the fans sometimes. But I think they're both great sports. I think that they both need more attention than they get. Motorsports, it's fantastic. It's great to watch. Another sport that we're going to talk about that doesn't get talked about a whole lot here in College Station, Texas is the World Cup, soccer, especially with the U.S. men's national team game last night. That was a little bit disappointing. We will talk about that here on the other side of this break. This is the Louis Bellina Show inside the Charles Schwab studio. I'm Caleb Rapley here on The Zone.
I am the one who knocks. TexAgs Live knocks down the competition from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. on the Zone 1150 a.m. and 93.7 FM.
Welcome back to the Louis Bellina Show here on The Zone, 1150 a.m., 93.7 FM. Caleb Rapley here, guest hosting for the last time here on a Friday in June, part of the summer edition of the Louis Bellina Show.
Boo!
We are going to get into a little bit of World Cup talk, and if you want to have your voice heard, text in 979-693-1150. That number is the D4 Land Services hotline, or if you text in, it is the Texas Mobile One Lube Express inbox. We will hear your thoughts if you just have some and send them to us. But we're going to get into some World Cup talk. We have producer Jeanette here in the studio with me, and it's been
What's up?
It's been a tournament, you know.
Yes.
We've had times.
It has been a lot of fun.
There have been times. I don't know if I'd say good times, but times.
Oh, I would.
Okay. The USA has, they did clinch moving on with their 2 wins against Australia and Paraguay, but then they just had to ruin the perfect run with a loss.
Well, you know what? And it's actually good for Turkey because apparently Turkish fans back at home were very unhappy with their performance, so they at least got to stick a win to the U.S., even though it was kind of a garbage game. So.
Yeah, it did seem like it was kind of a garbage game. We didn't have very many starters in, was my understanding. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah. So, it's kind of like people talked about this on social media, and I like this analogy. It's like a college football team that doesn't care about their bowl game. Like, there wasn't really anything did it affect seeding maybe?
No, they had already clinched first.
So they already knew who they were playing.
Yep.
We'd already clinched first in the group. So there really wasn't that much to play for. So it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, it was just a, scab game.
Sure. And I saw somebody tweet earlier, there's never been a World Cup champion that went undefeated. So
there you go.
This is a good thing,
See?
obviously.
Yes.
This is a good thing. We're getting our loss out of the way. So, last week we talked a lot about the fans.
Right.
I feel like there hasn't been as much big headlines like that this week. I think everybody's starting to finally get acclimated to America.
They're gonna go home and be in withdrawals.
Yeah.
And send those bottles of ranch home, and they're not gonna have barbecue back home.
Yeah, that does kind of suck for them. Barbecue is one of my favorite things about being an American, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
So, who are I don't know if we can really. Can I call the U.S. men's national team a contender?
Sure, but we have to get through Bosnia-Herzegovina first.
Yeah. So, what are we feeling going into that one?
I don't know. I mean, they were a third-place team, so I think we can do it as long as the right guys play and they come to play.
You think Pulisic's ever going to be healthy? Fully?
I think he'll play, but I don't know about at 100%. But even at not 100%, it's still pretty darn good.
Yeah. I think this is the best we've done in a World Cup in a while. Have we ever won a group stage or a group?
Oh, Ooh, that is a great question that I don't know the answer to.
Pulisic did play in this game a little bit, right?
No, wait.
I think he did.
Don't make me lie.
Maybe he didn't. I don't know.
I have slept. Trust me, I
it's
watched.
Hard to keep track of all this stuff.
I watched, but I slept. Or I have slept since then. I didn't sleep during the game.
Sure.
It's Friday.
I believe you. You definitely didn't go to sleep. What did it start at 9:00?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a crazy late start. It's wild to me that our fans are the one that had to stay up late when it's in our home country.
Right?
I guess I get that you gotta cater to the fans who aren't here in person, but still, 9:00. Come on. What are we doing?
I mean, if you're a World Cup fan, I remember waking up at 8:00 in the morning to watch games. God, that's been decades ago, though. But yeah, so you just have to watch when your team's on.
Right. I think there's only been one team so far go undefeated through their group, Mexico, in Group A.
Okay.
3-0. And
they didn't even need to play last night, really, either. Yeah. They had already clinched.
Right. So Canada's the only host nation, parentheses, host nation, that didn't win their group.
Womp.
So take the L.
Yeah. So now they don't get to play at home.
That is so unfortunate.
Yeah. Womp womp.
Especially since there are going to be games in Canada.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be them.
That's hysterical,
honestly.
It's
kind of crazy. Honestly, I feel like they should just get to play there anyway, but, whatever.
They can't. They've already decided. I mean,
yeah.
This
is so funny.
This plays that.
It is so funny. So we've got 2 more days of group play. Norway and France. That might be a game.
Oh, yeah.
That actually might be a really good game.
That's today, yeah. It's today
that's at 2. So after the end of Studio 12, you can tune in to that.
Not on our radio.
Yeah, not here. But once Studio 12 is done, make sure you listen to that, and then you can watch the World Cup game.
Tune in, Paul Feinbaum in the background, though.
Yeah, you can have that on. You can turn off the sound of the game and have Paul Feinbaum on. There you go.
Or vice versa.
That's how you. Then you're not in the zone.
I was going to say, as long...
Keep the zone on.
Exactly.
Keep the zone turned on.
Yeah.
There's no video feed for the zone, unfortunately.
Listenership.
But keep the zone radio station on. 1150 AM, 93.7 FM. But
nice plug.
Yeah, I'm great at that, honestly. It's like my main skill at the radio station is making sure everything gets plugged.
I'm sitting here smiling.
The Louis Blenny Show, brought to you by CC Electric, by the way.
Yay!
In the Charles Schwab studio. I feel like I'm Olin Buchanan on the Go Hour.
Except they sit there and talk about barbecue at 8:00 in the morning.
I would love to talk about barbecue.
Okay.
We should have a barbecue segment. I need to put that on the schedule for next time I host. We're going to talk about barbecue. Teaser, I don't know when that's going to be, but teaser for whenever that is. We're going to talk about barbecue.
We still got half an hour. What are you going to talk about for the next... Oh, you still got to play a listen in.
12:35, we have Greg McElroy's top 5 secondaries. We got 6 through 10 out of the way. Top 5 secondaries in college football. I love off-season college football content, especially when people... Not Greg McElroy. Greg McElroy's is always very this is the facts and logic and grounded information.
Right.
But I love when the people that are trying to just grasp at straws for content during the season.
You mean like we're doing right now? No, I'm sorry.
How dare you? How dare you? I can't believe you'd say such a thing. No, we're talking about the number 1 sport in the world, the most watched sporting event ever, the World Cup. How could there not be stuff to talk about? Is it because maybe I don't follow soccer?
But I told you Messi was going to show up and show out in the World Cup.
Yeah, he did. I wish he'd have done it at Kyle Field.
No kidding.
But yeah, Argentina is 2-0 in Group J.
Have they clinched it yet? Do we know?
I think so. I think they have. Yeah, because everybody else is lost.
Oh, well then, yeah.
So yeah, that is how that works.
So then he probably won't play.
Probably not. But so I think Group I really is the most interesting one left. France and Norway, both 2-0. Both. I don't know if Norway was a favorite coming into it, but that's who Holland plays for, right? I'm not tripping, am I?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2 of the biggest stars in the world matching up. This really is going to be. I think this might be the biggest game of the group stage.
Yeah, so they're both 2-0-0. So yeah, then the winner claims the stage.
And probably the winner goes ahead and takes the betting favorite spot, I would imagine, because I think France is still the betting favorite. They were in the top 3 going into it.
I had to stop betting.
Something like that. Well, no, I'm not saying I was betting on it. I was just, keeping up with who was favored. I don't bet on soccer. I don't know anything about it. Or not anything about it. I don't know enough about it. But yeah, this is going to be one of the biggest games in the tournament. Even as we get into the bracket play, this is one of the biggest games of the tournament. I think France is a favorite. Not like a huge favorite, but they're a favorite.
So Holland and Mbappe looks like they each have 4 goals. So that means they're also fighting for the golden boot. Now, I know Messi has 5 right now? You want me to look that up?
I don't know.
All right, let's see.
I know he's been really great, and that Cristiano Ronaldo has kind of
finally
fallen off, which is, unfortunate.
Well,
for him, I guess.
He didn't do anything in game 1, and then he had 2 in game 2.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, Messi leads the Golden Boot with 5 goals, followed closely for second place, a tie between Mbappe, Holland, and I don't know how to say this guy's name, Junior Vinicius
from Brazil.
Yep.
Yeah, that is one thing about that's another interesting thing about the World Cup is you get to learn how some things are actually pronounced and that you've been saying them wrong your entire life.
Right. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, it's Turkey. It's always been Turkey. I am not going to start calling it Turkey. Yay! Not going to happen.
Well, I mean, so it's not that we call it that. That's just what their actual country name is. Like España is actually Spain.
Right. But we don't call it that. We call it Spain.
Right. So, like, I don't have a problem with. I mean, obviously, your name is your name. You probably, but you should have got people to call you that earlier. You know what I mean? It's hard to do it in the middle of, like, we've been calling Spain Spain and Turkey Turkey. It's kind of hard to just change it.
It's like when you, at the Olympics, now I think on the back of the Olympic jersey, I think it does say España.
Yeah, it does. I'm pretty sure it does.
But commentators always call it Spain.
Right.
And it's like, okay, I'm a white girl and I speak English only, so like the league that's in Italy, if you call it like they call it Serie A. It means the A series.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to call it the A series. It's Mexico. Liga MX. It's Liga MX. I'm not going to pretend I'm something I'm not. I'm just going to call it what it is. Now, I'll order a Dos Equis because that's what it's called.
And a quesadilla.
It's not a quesadilla?
Yeah, it's...
dang it.
Quesadilla and tortilla.
And queso? I need some queso dip. Sorry.
We went off the rails. I mean, there never were any rails, but if there were, we're definitely off of them now. We should probably stop. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Jeanette. That was your weekly World Cup segment. We, on the other side of this, are going to have part 2 of our Listen In, Greg McElroy's Top 10 Secondaries. The Louis Bellina Show is presented by CC Electric, as I mentioned before. Residential, commercial, and industrial services. Free estimates built on faith, family, and community. It is CC Electric.
You're listening to Bryan College Station's home for Aggie baseball, the Astros, and the Bombers. The Zone. 1150 AM and 93.7 FM.
Welcome back to the Louis Bellina Show here on The Zone. We are inside the Charles Schwab studio. If you want to have your voice heard, 979-693-1150. If you call, that is the D4 Land Services hotline. The D4 Land Services hotline. Get your land fixed up at d4landservices.com. Text in. That's the Texas Mobile One Lube Express inbox. Right now, it's time for part 2 of our Listen In. Greg McElroy's Always College Football podcast. He is ranking the top 10 secondaries in college football for 2026. Part 2, this will be the top 5.
At number 5, it's the LSU Tigers. Lane Kiffin walks into Baton Rouge and immediately does what Lane Kiffin does. You go out and you get the best possible player available. So he goes out and gets Ty Benefield at Boise State, where he was the Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year, had triple-digit tackles, had 8.5 tackles for a loss, and was a 3-year starter with 33 career starts. I mean, then he decides, hey, I'm going to LSU. Could have gone to the NFL, could have gone to Oregon. Everyone was calling, everyone was interested, and he chose LSU. And the pitch that LSU made is the same pitch that they made to every elite defensive back who's walked through the door in Baton Rouge the last few years. Come here, play for Blake Baker. Blake Baker. A lot of people believe that this is DBU. However you feel about it is it's in the eye of the beholder, but they certainly have an argument to be made of that. I mean, look at what the system did for Mansour Delane last year. Mansour Delane transfers in from Virginia Tech, had 3 years of starting experience and a really quality reputation. I mean, he was physical, he was sticky in coverage. Well, he leaves LSU as the number 6 pick in the draft, goes to the Kansas City Chiefs, first corner off the board. Well, Benefield, could he get a comparable developmental runway? Plays a slightly different position, but still, you got to feel optimistic about his presence in the back end of the defense. You also look at the cornerback spot. DJ Pickett and PJ Woodland both return. You also get a couple pieces back in the secondary in DeMarcus Cooley and Deshaun Spears. These guys are back at safety. You also get Fahim Delane. Yes, that's Mansour's younger brother. He transfers in from Ohio State. So this is a room with immediate production plus massive developmental upside. That's why LSU checks in as our number 5 defensive back unit in college football. At number 4, it's the Georgia Bulldogs. You got KJ Bolden. Good starting point, right? You got a guy that is terrific as a sophomore in 2025. He was second on Georgia's defense last year in tackles as a sophomore. He also had a couple picks. One against Arch Manning, one against Tennessee, and he earned second team all SEC honors as a result. He also made some impacts on special teams as well. Look, he's a 20-year-old guy entering into his junior year, one of the better defensive backs in the entire country. Kirby Smart also kept Ellis Robinson and DeMello Jones at corner. Those are 2 proven starters who have kind of held their own against arguably the toughest conference as it relates to wide receivers in college football. And then Smart goes into the portal, and he doesn't do this a ton. He adds Braylon Conley from SC. He has Gentry Williams from Oklahoma at corner. That's portal depth at safety as well. So the question for Georgia is that the second safety spot opposite Bolden, that competition's not settled just yet coming out of spring. You got Rayshawn Dinkins, Kyron Jones, Jamarly Riddle. One of those guys has to step up, and if that happens in fall camp, then Georgia has a legitimate argument to be in the top 2 on this list potentially. But right now, they land at number 4. At number 3, it's the Texas Tech Red Raiders. We'll start with kind of just the Big 12 in general, and let's talk quickly about what Bryce Pollock did in 2025 and see if it makes sense to you, because the national media is kind of sleeping on this. He had 5 picks. He led the Big 12. He was 4th in the country. He had 7 PBUs, a bunch of tackles for loss. He was a first-team all Big 12 selection. And if you watch him, you know, some of those interceptions, you would think, well, maybe the pressure got to him, or maybe it was a bad decision because David Bailey was coming off the edge. No, he was well positioned in a bunch of different situations to go steal the football and get hands on the football. He's a quality route reader, and he can certainly diagnose what's coming before the snap. And by the time the quarterbacks decide to throw, well, Pollock's already decided where the ball is going. And on a team that won their first Big 12 championship in program history last year, to announce that he was coming back was significant. He said to the Texas Tech fan base, had just watched their team accelerate beyond what they've ever done before, say, hey, I'm coming back. We have unfinished business. And I think that's big. He's also not alone. You got John Curry back at nickel. You got Amir Boyd, who's back opposite Pollock at corner. You get Brennan Jordan, who's back at safety. Texas Tech returns 3 of their top 4 defensive backs on the best secondary in the Big 12 in a league with games and quality competition at quarterback. And Joey McGuire's defense, they're kind of built around the defensive secondary, but it will be aided naturally by the presence that they have along the defensive line. We've already talked about the quality of the defensive line that you're going to get from Texas Tech, the amount of pass rush you're going to get from Texas Tech. Guess who's going to benefit from that? Their defensive backs. They're not going to cover as long as some of the other teams that we've talked about in the past. So they're naturally going to play at a pretty high level with returning production, with continuity. I like Texas Tech being locked in at number 3. At number 2 is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, let me say this plainly, right? Alabama returns all 5 starters in their secondary. Both safeties, both corners, the nickel. That doesn't happen. Not in this era. Not in the SEC. Not at a program that consistently sends players into the first, second, third round almost every single spring. But it happened because Kane Womack sat down with Keon Sabb and Bray Hubbard back in January and made the case that another year in Tuscaloosa was worth more than the draft money that was potentially waiting for them a couple months down the road. And they agreed. If you look at Hubbard last year, remarkably instinctive player. He had 4 picks. He also forced 3 fumbles, had a bunch of pass breakups. He was a first-team All-SEC selection and actually garnered second-team All-American honors. And he was arguably one of the best players on one of the top defensive units against the pass in the SEC. He decides to come back. This is an opportunistic group across the board. You might look at the numbers. You might look at the pass yardage given up. Yeah, there's some pass yardage given up. But look at how often these defensive backs got hands on the football. Look at how often these defensive backs changed the game. Keon Sabb decides to come back. Zabian Brown decides to come back. The guy had 2 pick sixes in 2025, including a 99-yarder against Tennessee at the end of the half that became one of the signature defensive plays of the college football season. He's back at corner. So is Dijon Lee, who is coming into his own as a possible blue-chip lockdown guy here in the very near future. Red Morgan's back as well. And if you listen to Kane Womack and what he told reporters this spring, he feels that they are in a really good place in the back end entering the summer. As a man who knows that last year's defense gave up 19 points a game, which is pretty good, returns a lot of pieces in the secondary, and won't start emphasizing the word violence in practice. And I think him saying things are pretty good, I think he feels pretty good about that group in general. That's a frightening thought for those that have to go against the secondary on a week-in, week-out basis. The only thing standing between Alabama and number 1 on this list is arguably the best corner in college football, playing for the team that is ranked just in front of them. But Alabama very comfortably sitting on the number 2 line. At number 1, it is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. There is a corner in South Bend who is 21 years old and is already in the conversation to be one of the top picks of the 27 NFL draft. He's back for his junior year. And if you look at what Leonard Moore did as a 3-star recruit, or some publications had him as a 4-star recruit out of Texas, this guy was not universally regarded as, oh yeah, this will be the top corner in the sport in a couple years. Well, his freshman year, Benjamin Morrison gets hurt, goes down with a hip injury. In comes Leonard Moore, and he just goes on to lead Notre Dame in pass breakups. He goes on to become a freshman All-American. Then in his sophomore year, was one of the most dominant defensive players in the sport. Gets 5 picks, tied for 7th nationally, a bunch of PBUs, had the pick 6 against Syracuse. The guy does not let wide receivers breathe. As far as separation against him on a play-to-play basis, if you can separate and get open against him, the quarterback better get it out quickly, because if you're open, it won't be for long, because he closes faster than just about anyone in the sport. Now, I'll be straight with you. Notre Dame's unit as a whole last year, given the passing yards per game given up, was 56th. You would think, well, hang on, that's not a top 10 unit by the numbers. But what that number actually tells you is that the safety room was younger. The depth was slightly thinner. Well, if you look at this upcoming season, all 3 safeties are back. You have really experienced corners. You have quality depth in the portal, and you have a lockdown guy. This is not the same unit as a year ago. You also take into account the circumstances that Notre Dame was playing against on a week-to-week basis. They had massive leads in multiple games, so it became a throw-a-thon against them every single time the other team got in a 3-touchdown deficit. They had to throw all over the yard, so the numbers can be a little bit misleading. So this is a 2026 unit that is built around the best corner in the sport, and that's a different conversation. But here's the thing about Leonard Moore that the numbers do not fully capture. He plays bigger than what you realize. Watch the way he mirrors routes. Watch the way he competes at the catch point, and not waiting for the ball to arrive, but contesting every throw as if when you try it against me, it's almost personal. Watch the way he processes the formation, the motion, the way he diagnoses quarterback's eyes simultaneously, and then reacts before the ball comes out. That's not a stat, right? This is just football at a level that most players his age have not reached yet. He's a unanimous All-American as a result. He's a Jim Thorpe Award finalist. He was a Bronco Nagurski Trophy finalist. And Notre Dame finished number 1 in the country in interceptions as a team, with Moore kind of anchoring the secondary, and him being back for his junior year is massive. And in a Marcus Freeman defense, his 5th year as a head coach, this is year 2 under defensive coordinator Chris Ash. the team that already has Adon Schuler and Tay Johnson, Luke Talich returning at safety, all of them being back. DJ McKinney from Colorado, Jaden Sanders from Michigan, adding great depth at corner. Notre Dame has 6 defensive backs with starting level experience before fall camp even opens. And there's no other program in the country that can say that. That's why there is not currently an argument that holds up against this unit. Notre Dame, as of this moment, is number 1 in the back.
All right, that was a listen-in from Greg McElroy's Always College Football podcast, and he always has great things to talk about. Very insightful from Greg McElroy. This is the Louis Belina Show. Caleb Rapley here, guest hosting for the last time here on a Friday in June as part of the summer edition of the Louis Belina Show. Fridays in July will be Tony Catalina, so get excited for that. That should be a lot of fun. Love listening to Tony. So that'll be great. Coming up on the last segment of the hour, the Louis Belina Show, we are inside the Charles Schwab studio. Support comes from Mark Sim at the Charles Schwab branch in College Station. Schwab offers a modern approach to wealth management with financial planning to meet an investor's specific needs and the flexibility to adapt as those needs change with time. Learn more at schwab.com/College Station.
Music, history, and some occasional sports. Chip Howard. Weekdays 4 to 6 on the Zone 1150 AM. Number 1 and 93.7 FM.
Welcome back to the Louis Belina Show, final segment of the show today. Studio 12 coming up at 1 o'clock. We did have some texts into the Texas Mobile One Loop Express inbox. Greg says, we were talking about NASCAR earlier. Denny wants to finish his career with Joe Gibbs Racing. Joe is like a father figure to him. They do have an alliance with 2311. Yeah, I knew they had an alliance, and that does make a lot of sense that Denny would want to finish it out with Joe Gibbs. And that's always really cool when you see a driver get to spend pretty much his entire career with one team. You don't see that a whole lot anymore, or really at any point in NASCAR. You never really saw that a lot. So it is pretty cool to see Denny Hamlin get to do that in that number 11 car that has seen so many trips to victory lane. And unfortunately, he's never seen a NASCAR championship, but with the chase for the Cup system coming back this year, as opposed to the playoff system that has been around for the last, I think, 7 or 8 years, that'll change some things. Consistency is more important, and Denny's always been a pretty consistent driver. Be interesting to see if he can pull in a championship here in the twilight years of his career. I've never been a Denny Hamlin fan, but I've also never really hated him other than that one time that he spun Chase Elliott at Martinsville. Didn't really like that. I was a Chase Elliott fan growing up, as were probably most young NASCAR fans at that time. So didn't really like him for that. But other than that, Denny, has always been one of the great personalities of the sport. He's a part of the Dirty Mo Media, Dale Jr.'s podcast network. So I've getting to see the off-track personalities of these drivers over the last year, over the last few years, has been really cool. Like talking about Carson Hocevar earlier, he hosted the Dale Jr. Download the other day. That was a lot of fun to listen to. So if you want to get into NASCAR, I would definitely recommend listening to some of these podcasts, hearing about these drivers and how they actually are off the track as well, because that it's a lot easier to get invested into it when you know more about the person for sure. So that's pretty great. We had another text just now from Jim. A&M working with Haas Racing, maybe they do something with F1 in Austin. Yeah, that would be really cool. I don't really see it happening, though, just because F1 sponsors are usually more stable throughout the season. They don't really change. But, yeah, Texas A&M did sponsor the number 41 Chevrolet of Cole Custer at Naval Base Coronado. That was pretty cool. And they always have really cool liveries. They've done IndyCar, I think, before as well. I think we had a Texas A&M IndyCar at the Indy 500 back in May. So, yeah, sponsors that's also another really fun thing about motorsport that you don't really see in most other sports is sponsors are kind of like what changes what the car is going to look like week to week. The whole livery is based around the sponsor. So that always definitely does make a lot of fun changes, like you've seen with, just for example, Busch gets to change, like with the Busch Apple livery and the Busch Lime livery. It's just always a lot of fun to see what they're going to roll out there every week. And then one other text that we had was about the Texas A&M men's national team. Should we be disappointed that we lost, even though it was our backups? And no, I don't really think we should. I think it's a game that didn't really matter. I know we would have liked to win it, but it's not that big a deal. We're about out of time here, Louis Bellina Show. We've got a lot of fun things coming up at 1 o'clock here in just a few minutes. Studio 12 gets underway. 4 o'clock, we have Chip Howard Sports Talk hosted by Ryan and Riley, and maybe somebody else who, if you're not tired of talking to me already, you will be by then. This has been the Louis Bellina Show. I've been Caleb Rapley. I've really enjoyed hanging out with y'all here on Fridays in June.
The flagship station for Aggie Athletics is The Zone. Whenever the Aggies are playing, you can hear them right here at 1150 and 93.7. Thanks to our Aggie broadcast sponsors who make it happen. Amarillo National Bank, locally owned, family strong, and here to stay. Schulte Roofing, home of the bulletproof roof guarantee. And Rudy's Barbecue, real Texas barbecue. Listen to the games on The Zone 1150 and 93.7 FM.